Hey family, I am back with my last video. Be the puzzle piece that God can use. Well, I work with the ortho team. I worked with the ortho team for a little while. In the midst of working with them and getting to know them, I had to work other cases as well. And we had uh, several doctors that they had their choice of techs that came into the room that worked with them, because you do get, I guess, a little picky sometimes when you get familiar. You know that tech knows exactly what you want, how you want it, so you prefer that tech over maybe somebody new. Sometimes, and that's just how it was. And so, but there was one particular doctor, and I won't, call any names or anything like that, but he was accustomed to having the white techs or light skinned black techs in his room. And so we kind of dreaded having, if we saw our name on the board with him, we kind of knew it was going to be awkward, or kind of like we might have a bad day, because even though it wasn't, all the time said, but it was some prejudice things going on the inside of him. And I don't know why. There was some like racism in this particular hospital among the doctors or whatever, but with this particular doctor, it was obvious. And so once I had to work with him, I worked with him maybe two times in the beginning. Like maybe I had been there maybe about a year, and they put me with him because the tech that he preferred and maybe another tech that he preferred, they weren't there that day. And so he had to work with whoever was there, and it just so happened to be me. And so I was on this case working with him. And most doctors, they are, once they realize, okay, I got you, let's make the best out of it. But he's the type that had kind of an attitude throughout the whole case if it didn't go his way, at the beginning. And so you just had to, as a tech, just do your best job that you could do, even with the nastiness or whatever. And so during the case, I had all my setup right. As a surgical tech, we line up our instruments and things that we're going to need on our Mayo stand, the way they're going to use it. And most of the time when you're passing the doctor the knife, or scissors, or anything sharp, any injections that they're going to put into the patient, the needles and whatnot, you use them with caution. You put the top back on, and the doctor usually, when you hand it to him, hand it to him the way he's going to use it. And then most doctors, this is what they do. If they've injected the patient with something or whatnot, they'll tell you, I'm putting this back on your Mayo so you can be alert that they finna put something back over there. Or they're handing you back the knife. Here, I'm giving you the knife back. Most of them will tell you. Well, this one day I was working with him, and he had injected the patient with something. And so I'm just standing there on my Mayo, and I might have, was over here, looking over here somewhere. He was supposed to hand me back the injection to put back on my Mayo stand. But what he did like this and kind of stabbed me in my hand. And I just said, ouch. Just like that. He didn't look back. He didn't show no concern. The anesthesiologist in the room, he stood up. And one of my nurse friends who was sitting over there, she said, "Did he just stick you?" And I said, "Yes." And then she said, let's get somebody else in here. I want you to break scrub and go over to the emergency room. When I tell you, no remorse, no, I'm sorry, oh, I didn't mean to do that, nothing. He even heard the conversation go, nothing. He didn't say a thing. And so that's when I knew. I was like, this is a bad case of being prejudiced, or racism. And so you don't put anybody else's life in danger like that. So I broke scrub, and I went on. I was upset. Of course, anybody would be. I know some people, some texts, they were like, I would have jumped over that. I would have I would have got him, But I just broke scrub. I try to stay calm as possible because we don't know what the patient has. In those situations, you have to go and break. You have to go to the emergency room, get tested for everything. Whenever there's a transfer of needles or blood or anything like that, and it affects you. So I had to go to the emergency room, get tested for everything, and your mama, every 6 months I had to get tested, just because he wasn't careful and cautious on that case, and just kind of stabbed me in my hand. And so what happened? So after that, now most of us we can see that we would have been upset in that situation. And you have every right to be, because doctors really don't do that, not unless they have a problem on the inside, is what I say, a heart problem. And so I had to work with him maybe a couple of more times. And the Lord began to tell me, I want you to do the same thing as if he never stuck you when you're working with him. Keep going, He said, because I am the author and finisher of your faith. Keep working with him. Keep working with him. And so every time they put me with him, I just tried to do my best. And it wasn't a lot of times in my 5 years of being a surgical tech. I'm talking about maybe tops. I may work with him maybe 4 times in the whole 5 years. And so this was a big test, I would say, for me or anybody that has to go through when somebody causes you pain and they show no remorse. They act like they don't care. They go on like you ain't nothing. And so, and you just keep on loving them, and you just keep on doing what you're supposed to do. That's why, me and my husband are going to come with this series, Love Wins. Because whenever you invest in love, it's going to bring you blessings. It's going to change things. Maybe not so all the time, maybe in your life, but it's going to change something in that other person's life. And it's going to happen when you least expect it, that their heart begins to turn and go in the right direction toward loving everybody. And so I just had to love through that experience. When other people heard about it, the other texts and stuff, they was like, that's bad. He need to be reported. He need to be this. He need to be that. Because we all knew he didn't like our color in his room. But I didn't let that change me. And so every time I worked with him, I respected him like I was supposed to. I did my job the best I knew how. And so this is the time also I'm getting to, and then the Lord calls me to preach during this time. He calls me to preach. I'm in my house in Horn Lake, which is a little cottage that he blessed me with, just for me and him to dwell in, for him to share things of his kingdom with me. This is the house where he took